Good morning, everybody. Today we will start part 3 of goniometry. So, in the previous modules, we have learned the definition of goniometry. What is goniometer? What is the basic use of goniometer? What is range of motion? What is active range of motion, passive range of motion? Why it is necessary to assess both active and passive range of motion? Then we discussed about the degree system of assessment of goniometer, the range of motion. There are three systems we learned. After that, we learned about what is hypermobility, what is hypomobility. Then we learned about the principles of goniometer. So today we will learn about the procedure, the technique of goniometry. So coming to the procedure, so before we talk about how to use a goniometer and how to assess range of motion of a patient, we must understand the importance of positioning. Positioning is something in which position you want to place the patient for a particular range of motion. So the testing position is refers to the positions of the body recommended for obtaining goniometric measurements. That means if you want to assess range of motion for shoulder joint, there's a particular position in which you have to place the patient. A single position is not applicable for all the joint range of motion assessments. So every range of motion of a particular joint requires certain position in which you need to place the patient. Why it is important? It is an important part of goniometry because it is used to place the joints in a zero starting position. As you remember that we have learned, when we are measuring range of motion, the starting position is the neutral position or the 0 degree position of the joint. So when you position a joint in a particular position, you are actually going to attain 0 degree position of the joint. So you have to place the joint in such a way that there is 0 degree angle formed at the joint. So that means that's a starting position to take any range of motion. So that is why positioning is very important. So any joint you want to assess, be it ankle, be it hip, knee, every joint there is a particular position where you have to place the patient. For example, if it is shoulder joint, the patient should be positioned in supine line in case you want to measure uh, shoulder flexion, or also you can place the patient in sitting position. So in this figure you can see that this is an example for shoulder range of motion, and we have comfortably placed the patient in supine line. So if it was knee joint, for example, for knee joint we are supposed to place the patient in high sitting position. Okay, so for shoulder, this example is only for shoulder joint, so that is why we have placed the patient in supine line. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Coming to the, so what you should remember in context with positioning is a proper positioning helps in stabilizing the proximal joint segment. If your positioning is not correct, your proximal joint segment of the patient may not get stabilized and you will get improper range of motion. Now you will think, what is proximal joint segment? So let's take an example of elbow joint. If you want to take range of motion at elbow, your proximal joint becomes your shoulder joint and your distal joint becomes the wrist joint. So whatever is closer to the elbow joint is your proximal joint, and going away from the elbow joint is your distal joint. So for example, if you want to take range of motion at the wrist joint, the proximal joint becomes the elbow joint and distal joint becomes your interphalangeal joint. Now we'll take one more example to make it clearer. So if you want to take range of motion of a knee joint, the proximal joint becomes the hip joint and distal joint becomes the ankle joint. Similarly, if you want to take range of motion of shoulder joint, the proximal segment which you must stabilize is the scapula, and the distal joint is your elbow joint. So we are not much bothered about the distal segment. I was just explaining you what is proximal and what is distal. The point here is whenever you are taking range of motion of a particular joint, be it any joint, you need to stabilize the proximal segment. So in case of shoulder joint, you need to stabilize the scapula. So if you remember the previous picture, the patient is lying in supine. What we want to do is to take range of motion at the shoulder joint. So in supine position, the scapula is stabilized because of the couch on which the patient is lying down. So that is the proper position, and we were able to stabilize the proximal joint segment, which is the scapula, because of the positioning itself. So the point is, before taking range of motion of any joint, you need to think about the proximal joint and either stabilize it manually with your own hands or through a position, something like in supine lying, how the scapula was stabilized. So I hope you have understood the importance of positioning in goniometry. Now coming to the next important part of your procedure, which is alignment. So goniometer alignment refers to the alignment of the arms of the goniometer. What are the arms of goniometer? One is the moving and the stationary arm. So arms of the goniometer with the proximal and distal segments of the individual joints. Now in the previous slides, you have understood what is proximal and the distal segment, right? Again, I will explain you. If you are taking range of motion of elbow joint, so proximal to elbow joint is your humerus. That becomes your proximal segment. And distal to your elbow joint is radius. Okay. So your radius becomes the distal segment. Now please visualize you have goniometer in your hand and you have to place it in such a way that the two arms of the goniometer aligns with the proximal and distal segments of the patient, which means that since you are taking range of motion at the elbow joint, your protractor or the axis of the protractor should be placed at the elbow joint. Okay. So once you have placed at the elbow joint, now your proximal arm or the stationary arm should be parallel to the humerus, and the moving arm of the goniometer should be parallel to your radius. That is what known as alignment. Once you have positioned the patient, and when you know that this is the range of motion you want to take, you align the fulcrum of the goniometer with the anatomical landmark of the patient's body. So in this case, what we were talking about was elbow joint. So there you have placed your fulcrum, and the proximal segment is the humerus of the patient, which is aligned with the stationary arm of the goniometer, and the distal segment is the radius of the patient, which is aligned with the moving arm of the goniometer. So these landmarks, which have been identified for all joint measurements, should be exposed completely so that they may be easily located and palpated. So wherever you want to take range of motion should be free of clothing so that you can understand where to place the fulcrum easily. So again, proximal arm refers to the arm of the goniometer that is aligned with the proximal segment of the joint. Distal arm refers to the arm aligned with the distal segment of the joint. The fulcrum of the goniometer is usually placed over the approximate location of the axis of motion of the joint. So I hope these terms are clear. We'll show you one figure where it will be much more clearer. So again, remember, fulcrum of the goniometer should be placed on the anatomical landmark of the patient where the movement is going to happen. So if it is elbow joint which you are going to take range of motion, the anatomical landmark is on the elbow joint. So you need to place the fulcrum there. The distal segment should be in alignment with the moving arm of your goniometer, and the proximal segment of the patient should be aligned with the stationary arm of the goniometer. So now you understood how to align the goniometer with respect to the proximal and distal segment of the patient joints and bones. So now in this figure you can see that the goniometry will be done for shoulder range of motion. So if you see it carefully, the fulcrum is placed over the glenohumeral joint, the axis of moving joint. Both the moving and the stationary arm, you can see they are clipped together such that the stationary arm is parallel to the sternum. It's aligned in parallel to the sternum, which is the proximal bone, and the moving arm is aligned to the midline of the humerus. So when you are doing abduction, you're moving actually the proximal segment, which is the humerus. So the moving arm should be in alignment with the midline of the humerus, and stationary arm is not going to move at all. So it is aligned parallel to the sternum. So this is how we align the goniometer over the patient's proximal distal segment and the anatomical landmark for the fulcrum. So this is another example of alignment. You can see in case of elbow range of motion, which I was speaking few slides back. So the fulcrum is your elbow joint. The patient is again positioned in supine. Fulcrum of the goniometer is placed over the moving joint axis, which is your elbow joint. The stationary arm is aligned with parallel to the humerus, because humerus is not going to move. The stationary arm is aligned in line with the lateral aspect of the humerus, which is the proximal segment of the patient's body. The moving arm of the goniometer is aligned parallel to the moving segment of the patient's body, which is your radius. So I hope you understood the concept where to place moving arm. Moving arm is placed in alignment or in line with the moving segment of the patient's body, and stationary arm of the goniometer, it should be placed parallel or in alignment to the stationary proximal segment of the patient's joint. Okay, so this was about alignment. We spoke about positioning, now alignment. Now the third important part of the technique or procedure is stabilization. So once you have positioned the patient properly for the particular joint, particular range of motion, then you have aligned your goniometer. The third step is stabilization. So while placing the goniometer, since the proximal segment of the patient is not moving, should not move, we need to stabilize it so that it doesn't move at all. If you do not stabilize it, there will be combined motions happening at various joints. If you are not stabilizing humerus in case of elbow range of motion, the patient might also perform shoulder range of motion simultaneously. If you stabilize the proximal segment properly, this ensures that the range of motion is truly taking place at the elbow joint only. So always remember, only the distal segment of the joint moves. The proximal segment should be stabilized either manually by the therapist, or the way you have positioned the patient, that can also stabilize the proximal segment. So while testing for range of motion, the proximal segment should be stabilized. This ensures that a true measurement of the motion is obtained rather than combined movements at other joints. So if you are doing a proper stabilization of the proximal segment, you will ensure that the range of motion which is obtained is taken place only at that particular one joint and not at the multiple joints. This can be done by manual stabilization provided by the examiner, or also how you position the patient. So if you see this in this figure, the therapist can also stabilize the proximal segment of the joint, and also the plinth has taken care of the stabilization of the proximal segment. So this is a good position for shoulder range of motion because the therapist need not stabilize much because the plinth has taken care of the proximal joints proximal to the shoulder joint. So the positioning of the patient has ensured to maintain stabilization of the proximal segment of the joint. Coming to the technique of goniometry. So we have covered positioning, we have covered alignment of the goniometer, then we understood why stabilization is needed. Now the entire procedure we will go step by step. That will come under technique of goniometry. Standardized and systematized technique must include specified and defined position of the body as well as the individual joints under consideration, which again means that the most important part when you begin with range of motion is to position the patient's joint, whichever you are going to take range of motion. So the most important is you need to first position the patient. Next is place the patient in good body alignment to simulate the anatomical position. So you can start taking range of motion. We learned in the first class that either it can be done in neutral position of the joint or in the anatomical position of the joint. So you position the patient and then you align the joints either in neutral or the anatomical position. Clear and simple instructions about the procedure, how you expect him or her to cooperate. So any procedure involving therapist and patient, the therapist's duty is to clearly instruct the patient what you want the patient to do and what are you going to do on the patient should be very clear to the patient so that the patient can cooperate with you. If your instructions are not clear, the patient will not do the justified movement. The patient will not do the correct movement what you want to assess. So therefore, you need to give proper instructions. You need to explain what you have to do on the patient beforehand. Next, for ease in measuring and to isolate best desired motion, measure from starting position. So that means you need to start from the position of 0 degrees. You need to maintain the joint at 0 degree. You need to align your goniometer and protractor at 0 degree of the starting position. So this is the starting position. Always remember you start from 0 degrees and then the patient performs from 0 degree till how much ever he can cover the range of motion. So that was about the steps what you follow in goniometer. Next, you uncover the joint to be measured. Whichever joint you want to assess for goniometry, you need to uncover it. You need to remove clothing from that part so that you can palpate the anatomical landmark or the joint or the axis of motion. Why we need to do that? Because that is the point where you have to keep the fulcrum of the goniometer. If you don't know how to palpate, if you are unable to palpate because of thick clothing, then you don't know where to keep the fulcrum. If you don't keep the fulcrum correctly, you won't get the correct range of motion. The axis of the motion means that is the point where maximum range of motion happens. So if you don't choose that area, your range of motion may reduce, it may alter, it may give you a wrong reading. So that is why if you are doing for shoulder, the female should wear sleeveless, or you can ask the male patients to remove the shirt if they are comfortable. There should be minimal clothing or at least exposure of that particular joint. Then again, you need to find out the stationary arm should be kept on the stationary bone. In the previous slides, we have spoken about it, that the stationary arm of the goniometer should be placed along with the stationary or the proximal bone of the patient, right? Again, I'll tell you example. If it's a shoulder, if it's an elbow joint, the proximal arm of the goniometer is aligned with the humerus. Coming to moving arm of the goniometer should be in alignment or parallel to the distal part of the patient's joint, which you're going to assess, or the moving bone. As simple as that. Distal or moving bone is the same thing. In case of elbow joint, your distal or the moving bone becomes your radius. Okay. So now next step is, once you have aligned, you have uncovered the area, you have kept the fulcrum on the particular anatomical landmark, you have properly aligned the stationary arm with the stationary bone of the patient, and moving arm of the goniometer aligned to the moving bone of the patient. Next step is, hold the part securely above and below the joint being measured and gently move through the available range of motion. So when the therapist is holding both the proximal and the distal segment and moving into a particular direction, that will give you the passive range of motion. When therapist is simultaneously pushing the arm or elbow into flexion and taking the range of motion, that becomes the passive range of motion, where there is no voluntary effort from the patient's side. That is known as passive range of motion. The second thing is active range of motion. You need to just place the goniometer in a proper alignment. You need to stabilize the proximal segment. The distal segment should be moved by the patient. When that happens, that is known as active range of motion. So please remember, we first take active range of motion and later only we take passive range of motion. Please do not get confused. The first and foremost thing is that first we take active range of motion, where the patient moves the joint and therapist takes the range of motion. Second part is passive range of motion, where therapist is taking range of motion and also simultaneously doing the range of motion for the patient. He is using manual effort to take the elbow into flexion or shoulder into flexion or any other movement the therapist is doing. That is known as passive range of motion. Apply the goniometer to the lateral side of joint except in measuring supination. This is one point you remember. When we'll have practical sessions, then you can understand this point very well. The instrument should be held closely away from or in light contact with the patient's body. So when you're placing goniometer, it should not be sticking close to the patient's body. There should be some gap between the goniometer and the patient's body. Okay. Maintain the instrument throughout the procedure. So when you are doing either taking active or passive range of motion, you need to move the goniometer simultaneously whatever the patient is doing movement. If patient is doing elbow flexion, your moving arm should simultaneously move along with the radius moving. Okay, so it should be continuous throughout the procedure. No force should be applied on the body in placing the instrument. So again, the instrument should not be closely in touch with the patient's body. What happens is, if you are touching the instrument too closely to the body, it may irritate the skin, it may reduce your range of motion. Okay, maybe a patient may get irritated with the feeling also. So you need to be little away. It should be closer to the joint, but there should be some gap between the goniometer and the skin or the body of the patient. Motions of opposite extremity, if uninvolved, should be measured for comparison. Please ensure you remember this point throughout your career. When you are taking range of motion of side A, you need to take the range of motion of side B also for comparison purpose. If the patient says, I have shoulder pain in right side, you need to first check on the normal side, that is the left side, which is pain free, which is symptom free. So first take on the uninvolved side, so that you know that this much range of motion is normal for this particular patient. Once you know the normal range of motion of patient, then you go to the involved side, You check range of motion and then you can compare and you can analyze the issues with the range of motion, which means you need to take range of motion on both the sides compulsorily. So you can see this figure again. If you see it carefully, the fulcrum is placed, the actual landmark for shoulder joint for abduction is 1 inch below the acromion process. Okay, so if suppose you are placing a fulcrum there, you can see carefully, it is not sticking to the patient's body, it is not sticking to the patient's skin. There is gap between the goniometer and the patient's body. So you need to, still your fulcrum is placed exactly where it should have been placed. The anatomical landmark you can also mark with a black marker or blue marker with the patient's permission, so that you know this is the joint axis or the anatomical landmark where you need to place the fulcrum. But you are not going to stick or you're not going to place too closely the goniometer on the patient's body. And again, the moving and the stationary arm is in loosely contact with the patient's body. It is not sticking to the patient's body. If you are in too much of contact, you will not allow the patient to complete a proper range of motion. There will be reduced range of motion. The patient can also get some increased sensory feedback when you are constantly touching the skin of the patient with the goniometer. So in order to maintain all that, make sure that goniometer is not sticking to the patient's body. It should be in loosely contact or in little bit of gap. So in this class, this was a very important class. I'm sure that there will be certain doubts which we can clarify in the practical session. This class was all about the technique of goniometry. The primary points were how to do positioning, why to do positioning, then what is alignment, where to place the moving and the stationary arm of the goniometer, what is the proximal and the distal segment of the patient's body with respect to a particular joint, then why to stabilize the proximal segment. So we learned about all these points. So this was general technique for goniometry. Individual techniques will be dealt in practical sessions, in practical classes. So I hope if the lecture is clear, and if you have any further clarifications, you can always contact me, because this is really basic and this is really important, and these techniques we will be performing on patients throughout our life. So please, I request you that if you have any doubts, kindly consult me. You can refer to the book Cynthia Hawkins for Goniometry. You have learned Cynthia Hawkins for biomechanics. There's another book, Cynthia Hawkins for Goniometry. You can take that book, you can read it, and if you have any doubts, please get back to me. I'll be more than happy to help all of you. Thank you so much. So we have last part of goniometry, part 4, which we will deal in the next class. I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you so much.